Hi everyone, in this tutorial we're gonna go ahead and create our second Android application. As you can see, I opened the Android Studio IDE and then we need to actually click on this start a new Android Studio project, and then we need to actually specify a name for our project. As you can see here, so for the project name just choose a name, for example app2. For the company domain, choose a company domain, choose a location for your project, and here choose the API 16 Android 4.1 Jelly Bean for your minimum SDK, okay? And then click on next. Here choose this blank activity and then click on next, and here just don't change anything and then click on finish. And as you can see here, it's now actually creating our Android Studio project, okay? It's now showing us the same problem that I actually showed you the solution of this problem in the previous tutorials. We need to actually click on this Gradle scripts and then click on this build.gradle and then change this 23.2.0 to 23.1.0, okay? And here again change this number to 23.1.0 and then click on sync now. So as you can see here, it's going to actually sync our project, and then it's going to actually take some time here. And if we go back inside the content, underline main.xml here, now as you can see the error is gone, okay? So just delete this hello world here, drag a component inside this screen here, okay? So I want to actually drag a text view inside this screen. Inside the widgets folder, just drag a large text view inside this screen, as you can see here, okay? And just drag it in the center of the screen, as you can see here. So now if I actually choose this text view here, now I can actually change the properties of this text view here. Now if I want to actually change the text of this text view here, I just need to actually find the text property of this text view here. As you can see here, this is the text property of this text view here. So now I can actually change this text here to put your text here, okay? And then press on enter key on your keyboard. So as you can see here now, the text of this text view here is now changed, okay? So now if I run my project, as you can see, it's gonna actually configure the virtual device for us. Now I actually choose this Nexus 5 API 23 here, launch emulator. So as you can see here, it's gonna actually start the Android virtual device for us, okay? Now it's actually opened this window for us. Okay, as you can see now our app is actually showing here, okay? So this is our app and this is the text inside this screen here, okay? Now I want to actually make some changes to this application here, okay? So first we need to actually double click on this Java folder here and then click on this first folder here and then click on this main activity here, okay? So in order to make this editor area wider, double click on this main activity.java here, okay? And now if I want to actually increase the size of the font of these codes here, I just need to click on this Android Studio here. If you are using Mac OS 6, you just need to click on this Android Studio and then click on Preferences. And if you are using the Android Studio on a Windows machine, you need to click on this file here and then click on Settings, okay? As you can see here, I don't have that option here because I am using the Android Studio on a Mac OS 6, okay? So I just need to click on this Android Studio here and then click on Preferences. So as you can see here, this window is opened here, okay? We need to actually click on this editor here and then click on Colors and Fonts and then click on Font, okay? So now in order to actually change the size of the font of our Java codes here, we need to actually click on this Save As here and then choose a name for our scheme, for example, Darkula 2, okay? And then click on OK. So as you can see here, another scheme is actually created for us. And now if I actually want to change the size of our fonts here, I can actually change this number to another number, for example, number 18. So as you can see here now, the size of the codes are much bigger, okay? So here I can actually change the font of our Java codes, and then you can actually click on this OK here. So as you can see here, now the size of our Java codes is much bigger, okay? So let's go back inside the content underline main.xml here. As you can see here, there is a floating action button here, okay? But I don't want this floating action button here. So this floating action button for this application. So if I double click on this content underline main.xml and then double click on this res folder here and then double click on this layout folder, and here as you can see there are two XML files, activity underline main.xml and content underline main.xml. So just double click on this activity underline main.xml, and if we just double click on this activity underline main.xml, and if I want to actually make this area wider, I just need to double click on this activity underline main.xml, okay? So as you can see here, if Android Studio does show any error, you just need to click on the clear cache, okay? So here, if I want to actually delete this floating action button here, I just need to actually click on this text tab here, and now I can just delete these lines of code here, okay? Android.support.design.widget.floating action button, okay? So if I delete those lines of code, as you can see, there is no floating action button here, okay? And then go inside the main activity.java, and then we need to actually delete these lines of code here, okay? Floating action button, as you can see here, it is actually creating a new object from this floating action button class, and it is actually initializing this object with some values. And if I delete these lines of code here, now we can actually continue adding our own codes, okay? So for this application, I don't want to use any menu options. So just delete these lines of code here too. We just only need this method, onCreate, okay? This onCreate method is like main method in our Java applications that we created in the previous tutorials, okay? This onCreate method is the method that is executed when our application is actually started for the first time, okay? So just put in some space here. Now I want to actually interact with this content underline main XML here, okay? I want to actually change the text of this text view here by actually adding some codes inside this main activity.java, okay? So in order to actually change the text of this text view here, we need to actually give this text view an ID, okay? So in order to actually give this text view an ID, just click on this text view here, and then we need to actually find the ID property of this text view, as you can see here. So here I can actually give an ID to this text view here. So I can just type in txt1. So as you can see here, I gave an ID to this text view, okay? So if I go back inside this main activity.java, here I can actually create an object from this text view here, okay? Here I can actually create an object from the text view class, okay? So in order to create an object, first we need to actually refer to the name of the text view class. So just type in here text view with a capital T, text view. As you can see here, I used the capital V here, okay? Text view. And here I can actually give a name to this object, for example, txt1. As you can see, I actually used the same name as the ID of this text view component here, okay? So txt1, and then I need to put in an assignment operator here, and then I need to actually put in a pair of round brackets here, and then I need to refer to the name of the text view class again, text view, and then I need to actually just type in here find view by ID r.id.txt1, okay? And then I need to put in a semicolon at the end of my statement. So as you can see here, I created an object from this text view class, okay? So as you can see here, there is an error here, okay? As you can see, the color of this text view class is red. And this means that this main activity class doesn't recognize this text view class, okay? So we need to actually import this text view class to this main activity.java here, okay?